I, Lelouch V. Britannia, command you. Now all of you.
Subscribe now.
In the wake of Rosé of the recapture, it was the quality of the anime that dominated the conversation, or rather, it was the lack of quality. However, some of the ideas and concepts introduced in the anime may have far-reaching implications for the future of the Code Geass franchise. One concept I rarely see discussed online is the connection between Lelouch and Sakuya. And I'm not talking about how they're both uncle and niece. No, the connection I'm talking about is far deeper and potentially more consequential than many might realize. However, before I explain further, please take the time to subscribe. This is the Geass Network, the place where we discuss, theorize, and cover all things Code Geass. If you're a fan of Code Geass, then this is the place for you. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What serious implications could I possibly be referring to? The series already revealed that Sakuya is Lelouch's niece. What other detail could you have overlooked?
You desire power. The power of the king will condemn you to solitude. It will drive away those most precious to you.
The scene I just played clearly establishes where Sakuya received her Geass power. At first glance, this scene doesn't seem that significant. It's obvious, the writers included it just so Lelouch could make a cameo appearance. While a harmless cameo may have been the reason for this specific story decision, its consequences could outlive that seemingly innocent cameo. Similar to C2 and Lelouch at the beginning of the original series, Sakuya and Lelouch have formed a contract, a supernatural bond that surpasses the bounds of a normal relationship.
If I grant you power, could you go on? I propose a deal. In exchange for this power, you must agree to make my one wish come true. Accept this contract and you accept its conditions. While living in the world of humans, you will live unlike any other. A different providence, a different time, a different life. The power of the king will condemn you to a life of solitude.
Yes! I hereby accept the terms of your contract!
However, before I delve into the implications of a contract between Lelouch and Sakuya, let's first go back. Forming contracts and imbuing people with Geass power is not an ability that anyone can do. Only those that bear a Geass code can offer contracts. And in the 2019 film, Lelouch of the Resurrection, Lelouch was revealed to be a code bearer, having inherited the code from his father, Charles Z. Britannia. But the transference of the code wasn't fully completed. This is why, at the beginning of the Resurrection film, Lelouch is a hollow shell of himself. And, even after they've completed the transference, Lelouch can still somehow use his Geass power, something that Codebearer aren't supposed to be able to do. However, this form of a corrupted code isn't unique to Lelouch. In the very same movie where Lelouch's code-bearing status is established, Lelouch of the Resurrection, another character is introduced who also seems to possess this particular type of corrupted code, Princess Shamna.
What's going on?
Princess Shamna, it's too dangerous here. You must leave.
My work here is too important.
I will not let it claim your life, madam. We must escort you to the castle.
I can prevent this. Perhaps we intercept their aerial units first.
It isn't revealed in the movie if Shamna has made a contract with anybody, but we do see a glimpse of her Geass mark on her pelvic area, which is enough to conclude that she is a code bearer. The Geass mark is usually the most obvious sign of those that bear the code. C2's mark is on her forehead, while Lelouch's is on his chest. But, despite bearing the mark, Shamna, like Lelouch, can still use her Geass power. Funny enough, up until Rosé of the recapture came out, we weren't even sure that someone with a corrupted code could even form a contract with another person, thus imbuing them with a Geass power. Now, this brings me to the contract between Lulu and his niece. Since Lelouch is the one that gave Sakuya her Geass power, that would obviously mean that their relationship would be similar to that of Lelouch and C2. The connection between a bearer and whoever they offer a contract to is sacred, and it involves gaining intimate knowledge of each other, something that would be understandably weird for our uncle and niece. I'm sure by now you're starting to see how this Geass bond between these two characters might end up being a through line across the franchise, but more on that later. For now, I want to expand on the rules of this Geass connection. Speaking of rules, another pivotal one has to be the most well-known feature for code bearers, immortality. Though the Resurrection film chose to remain ambiguous about whether Lelouch is immortal or not, given he has a corrupted code, I personally believe he is. Otherwise, I don't see the point in bringing Lelouch back from the dead. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Now, let's say that Lelouch really is immortal. That would mean Sakuya, who is in a contract with her uncle, Lelouch, could theoretically kill him. Remember, though code bearers are immortal, their immortality can be overcome only by the person they have a contract with. If you recall, in the original anime, the mysterious end of Lelouch's bargain with C2, which he had to fulfill, was in making her one wish come true, dying. After having lived for centuries, C2 wished to die, because she'd come to the realization that life without the possibility of death was meaningless. And, as established earlier in the video, only one who has entered into a contract with a code bearer can kill them. But C2 realized towards the end that Lelouch was too kind to live up to his end of the bargain, which is why she turned to Charles, hoping that maybe he would be able to do it. However, Lelouch is able to convince C2 not to go through with passing her code to Charles, which would result in her death. Now back to Sakuya. Lelouch's niece being the only one that can overcome his immortality could come into play in future sequels. Imagine if an antagonist somehow found a way to get Sakuya to turn against Lelouch, perhaps using a deep hypnosis of their own. It may seem far-fetched, but this is Code Geass we are talking about here. Anything is possible. Earlier in the video, I mentioned code bearers gaining intimate knowledge of those they enter into a contract with. I bring this up in order to further explain the rules of this Geass connection. A great example of what I'm talking about happens in the final episode of the first season of Lelouch of the Rebellion. C2 is somehow able to be aware of Nunnally's kidnapping, even though Lelouch himself isn't. This awareness comes as a result of C2's supernatural connection with Lelouch. Their bond is so close that she can even sense what's happening to those Lelouch cares about.
Hey, get back in here!
I know, the Government Bureau's defense forces will be here soon.
No! Your little sister's been kidnapped!
C2, this is not the time for jokes. We'll take Cornelia back to the command center as our hostage.
She's been taken! I just know because she's the reason you live! She's on Kamine Island!
Kamine Island?
That scene establishes the complex nature of the bond between a bearer and a Geass user. And now that the Lelouch of the Resurrection film has introduced the concept of corrupted codes, who knows how that could affect how these bonds work going forward. But it's probably best to focus on the rules that have already been established in the franchise so far. Now consider how this supernatural connection could affect any new Lelouch-centered projects. If Sakura, for example, Sakuya's best friend, was kidnapped or murdered, Lelouch would probably sense this. And remember, this awareness could include anyone Sakuya is close to. Kinda makes me wonder if he sensed it when Ash Phoenix died. The possibilities are quite interesting. I don't think it would be incorrect to compare this Geass contract to a marriage. Like a marriage, only death will do them part. I wonder if a Geass divorce is possible. I'm just kidding, by the way. Anyway, I know that the notion of comparing Lelouch and Sakuya's connection to a marriage might not exactly sit well with some people. But remember, incest isn't new to the Code Geass franchise.
Do you remember that time when you and I got into a great big argument? On which of us was going to marry Lelouch when we grew up?
Yes, I do. We put Lelouch on the spot by making him decide right then and there.
And this.
Guess what, Papa? Someday when I grow up, I'm gonna be your wife.
Oh, that's very sweet of you, honey. But your teacher told you, didn't she?
Huh?
Someday you'll meet the man you really love.
More than I do you?
Now, a Geass contract between blood relatives isn't new to the Code Geass universe. Charles Z. Britannia formed a contract with his older brother V2, who was a code bearer. That code was passed to Charles when he killed his older brother. And, in that alternate timeline, that same exact code was passed to Lelouch, funny enough. You'd think that Charles and V2's bond would be an example of a contract between family that wasn't weird, but, unfortunately, it instead serves as an example of how messed up a Geass bond between blood can get. Things even got to a point where V2 got jealous of his brother's wife, Marion the Flash, and, in his fit of jealousy, murdered his sister-in-law, and arranged for it to look like a terrorist plot. Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
No! Hell no! No! No!
Whether there was anything romantic between the brothers, I'm not sure. But Charles and V2's relationship was definitely not your average brotherly bond. The anime never went into detail, opting to rather leave things up to interpretation, but come on.
The most splendid relationship in the world is that of loyal siblings.
Now, I hope I've done a good enough job outlining why Lelouch and Sakuya's contract isn't just a harmless cameo, but has potential to have far-reaching consequences for the Code Geass franchise as a whole going forward. But if Sakuya/Rosé becomes a permanent fixture in this franchise, what does that mean? I know, just the notion of more stories featuring Rosé might immediately turn a lot of fans off, and it's understandable why. Though many had high hopes for the series, it just disappointed so many. I'm very aware that many fans would love to see Code Geass return to its former glory, and might feel that Rosé's continued inclusion in the franchise could jeopardize its chances of going back to Lelouch of the Rebellion level quality. And of course, it's entirely possible that the studio could create a series that both features Rosé and is still good. I know for some, it may be hard to imagine, but it all depends on the writing. I personally feel that the future of Code Geass rests entirely on the shoulders of the newly announced anime, Asper the Star Chaser. If the series is another disappointment and lets the fan base down, no one will trust Sunrise ever again. But if miraculously, Asper the Star Chaser is actually good, then the fans will start to believe that Code Geass is back. Anyway, I'm curious, how do you feel about the potential implications of Lelouch and Sakuya's contract? Are you okay with Rosé maybe coming back for another installment in the franchise? If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Until next time, bye.
I, Lelouch v. Britannia, command you. Now all of you.
Subscribe now.
you